Hello and welcome to another TryHard Diablo 3 class guide. Today we're going to be covering the Wizard. We'll be going over things such as gear, spec, playstyle, kiting styles, avoiding damage, and just staying alive in general. This guide should hopefully get you through Acts 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the Inferno difficulty with a bit more ease than you might have been going through with at the moment. We're going to have an in-depth look on kiting, different kiting styles, different kiting techniques, where to use them, when to use them, and just overall how to get the most out of your surroundings to help you kill the monsters you're currently fighting. Okay, let's get into the game, and we'll go over the spec first today. There's multiple specs you can play on your wizard. This is the spec I would recommend for anybody coming into Acts 1, 2, and 3. This is a overall just really solid build. If your gear's not the best, I'd definitely use this. I'm going to go over a second build for when your resistances, vitality, and DPS are all balanced out at a really high value. But this is for when you have low vitality, low resist, and you're aiming for kind of high damage. This is what I clear all of Act 3 with and all of Act 4 with. I haven't killed Diablo with this build, but yeah, that's just because there's certain things in the Diablo fight which you want to change up. So yeah, this is okay, so Shock Pulse with Piercing Orb is the first one. This spell is I don't know if you've used it or not, but it's really good for utility. It kind of travels through walls and around walls. So like you can see it, sometimes it like clips through the wall like that. It's really good for, yeah, that as utility. I mean, going around walls, you can shoot it through doorways and it won't kind of clip the wall. Just go through and hit all the monsters. So not many spells do this. That's why I like this. It hits hard as well, and it's really just overall like just a juicy, nice spell. You can't complain using it. The second one, obviously, you need something to kite with this build because your hit points and vitality are, well, your hit points and resistances will be low. Well, you're not that geared. So Blizzard this is one I use. You can change this up, but I use Stark Winter. It makes the actual size of the Blizzard 22 yards. So as you can see, it's pretty big there. And then like if you get rid of that, it's quite small. So it almost doubles the range of the actual Blizzard. So that's what I use. You can swap that out. I was using this for a while. Where was it? That one. Where when it disappears for 3 seconds, they get reduced by 60%. But the problem with that is most of the time you're using it for damage and slow, so you're not going to put it so far ahead of you that it wears off so they get slowed 60%. It's pointless. You can use that, but I found Stark Winter about 10 times better than that. So that's kind of like your main primary and your two main primary skills. So you want to Blizzard a lot and then Shock Pulse, but I'll go over the playstyle in a bit. So this is really good in my opinion, the Hydra. As you're kiting, you pop down Hydras all the time. It costs next to no arcane power. And the Venom one is really nice. It does 18% weapon damage per second to the enemies who are standing in the pool. So these Hydras put them down quite quickly. The monsters can stand and then for a few seconds take crap loads of damage. So that's a good one. See, now you can swap a few of these. I go for full out damage. So Familiar with Spark Flint, this gives you 12% damage, really nice DPS increase, and then you also give your Familiar himself actually attacks 20% damage per attack. Energy Armor, this is the spell you can swap out for anything you want. This is just what I use. So I use Energy Armor, which gives you resistances and armor, which isn't that great. Reduces your arcane power, fine. And then I use 5% crit. Obviously, if you're having problems staying alive, you can swap that out for Force Armor when your vitality and resistances get a bit higher, because that actually, instead of the attack killing you or dealing more than 35% of your health, it actually just kind of does 35% of your life instead. So if you were at 100% and someone was going to hit you for 80% of your life, then it would put you down to 65% instead of whatever they hit you for. So that's nice. You can swap out Energy Armor for literally anything. Mirror Images are okay. You can put Arch on in your build. Frost Nova is really nice for teleporting mobs and fast mobs. Diamond Skin, obviously pure survivability with Crystal Shell. So you can swap in the Energy Armor with whatever you want, really. I just prefer to use straight DPS. And then the fourth spell I use is Magic Weapon with Force Weapons. So 15% damage, 2% knockback. I used to mess around with some of these, but they just none of them seemed good enough for me. I didn't like them, so that's it. I'm using Hydra and then 3 main DPS spells. Passive skills, Glass Cannon, 15% damage and then reduces your armor and resistances by 10%. That's I'd say that's crucial for every build. It's a lot of damage. These two can be whatever you want. These are what I use. Astral Presence, Arcane Power by 20, so it kind of makes up for your energy armor, reducing by 20. And then you get 2 per second, which is nice regeneration. And then I'm using Prodigy, which is 4 Arcane Power every time you hit with a signature spell. So every time your Shock Pulse hits, you get 4. So you're constantly with those two going up a lot and a lot of Arcane Power. So that's pretty much it for the intermediate build. We'll go over the kind of later on builds when you're a bit more geared. So this is the build you want to use when you're actually geared. This is talking, 800 resistance, 30k health plus, and I'd say around 90k DPS or 80k DPS. This build is very good. My friend uses this, and he's super geared, and he just literally doesn't mess around. He just shreds through everything. So Arcane Orb with the 20 casting cost, this you can just spam all the time. So you don't need as much survivability, so there's no slow. So he spams that all the time, does loads of damage. Archon, this is just when your DPS gets high and your resistances get high, this is probably the best spell. One of the best spells in the game, I would say. So the idea is to have this up as much as you can. Every time you kill a monster, you get a second. So you use it when there's a big group, you fight your way through, and you keep it up constantly. Hydra again, so when Archon's down, you have a second utility spell with Venom. Familiar, Sparkflint again, 12% damage. Energy Armor, Prismatic Armor. The only reason I don't say 5% crit on that is because once your resistances get high, you get 40% increased resistance with Prismatic Armor, and that multiplies to a lot of resistances, so that's crazy for survival. Diamond Skin again, so when Archon's not up, you're going to be taking a bit more damage, so that just gives you a bit more survivability, 15-second cooldown. It's it's fantastic with this build. This is like the only reason I don't go with the second magic weapon is because by this point with your gear, your DPS will be high enough anyways to ignore it. So Diamond Skin in that place. Glass Cannon again, you lose resistances, but you gain a lot of armor. There's nothing else you'd really want to use in this slot anyways. Astral Presence again, so when you're outside of Archon form, you're getting a lot more arcane power back. And then Critical Mass, so even when you're in Archon form, you're reducing the cooldown of your Archon form by 1 second every time you crit. So obviously every time you kill something, you get a second, and when you're critting, you're reducing the cooldown. So even if you come out of Archon form because you've run into monsters to kill, Archon form should hopefully be up in that time. Also, the other thing I didn't mention about Archon form is it does increase your armor and resistances by 40%. So the idea is you get high resistance, and your resistance just multiplies and multiplies with Archon and Prismatic Armor. And also, obviously, when you're outside of Archon form, you're taking a lot more damage, so Diamond Skin. So this build really complements kind of being in Archon form and then also being outside of Archon form. My friend will be live streaming his wizard soon with this build, and he literally he kills packs in Act 3 in about 8 seconds. But this is, I'm talking like you need really good gear to make this build really viable. You need high resistance, and your DPS needs to be high as well. Otherwise, Archon form just, it's crazy damage anyways, but you need good damage to base it off of. Otherwise, you won't be doing much. So you'll be running around in Archon form, and you won't be able to kill elite packs too easily. So yeah, this is like the more intermediate kind of once you farmed your ass off kind of build, I suppose. So keep that one in mind for later on once you've farmed out quite a bit of gold. Okay, we're going to go over gearing now. So first of all, we're going to cover which gear I have and what I'm clearing Inferno Acts 3 and 4 with. The gear you want to aim for, as well as the top end gear you overall want to aim for in the end, but the top end gear costs crazy amounts. So we'll go through my gear first. 945 DPS, blue one-hander. Nothing too special, probably worth about 2 million now. I found it, so whatever. It's okay. The offhand, high damage on it with really good intelligence and arcane power on crit, which is one of my favorite stats. On this one, you want crit, but I don't have it, so costs a lot, and this one's really good. Bowjanglers, they're not as good as they used to be before 1.03.3, but they are still pretty good. I think these are a bit better than like 180 intellect or intelligence boots, because they have attack speed on them still. So just legs. See, these are kind of what you want to aim for towards the end. They have high intelligence, decent vitality, physical resist. The belt's pretty good. Intelligence, vitality, physical resist, life, armor, all on it. So that's kind of the stats you want to aim for towards the end, again. These are okay, nothing special. Could have crit on them, but they don't, so. High intelligence, no resist. intelligence, attack speed, and critical on them. Intelligence and vitality, a bit of physical resist. Again, nothing special. Decent Endariel's Visage, 127 intelligence, it's worth about 1.52 million now. It's gone down in value, but it's still good. Got crit and attack speed. And then this has low intelligence, vitality, attack speed, and critical hit damage. And then my rings, the one I actually show in all the kill clips is better than this. I sold it for 4 million though, so this one's intelligence crit. The other one was way higher. It was like 220 intelligence with crit. So, but yeah. And then intelligence, crit damage, and attack speed. So as you can see, none of my gear is necessarily good at all. My resistances are low, and my vitality is non-existent. But I still managed to do all of Act 3, no problem, because I've learned how to avoid all the damage. So this is kind of a gear you do want to aim for to clear Act 1 through 3 to get it on farm. You just, obviously, I'll show you in the playstyle of how to actually stay alive. So the stat priorities for this gear at the moment, or for, I'd say for a lower kind of progressing into Acts 1 through 3, you want to aim for intelligence, crit damage, increased attack speed. Sorry, intelligence, crit, actual chance, increased attack speed, crit damage, all resist, vitality, life percentage, armor, and physical resist. That's what you want to aim for starting your character up. It's all really cheap stats. You can get high intelligence, some critical hit, really cheap on the auction house, so aim for that. Later on, when you have loads and loads of gold, you want to aim for, and this is priority, crit chance, intelligence, all resistance, attack speed, crit damage, vitality, life percent, armor, physical resist. So to get all of those on pieces of, like, you want to aim for level 63 items with 5 stats of the top 5 for those. That's going to cost you a lot more gold, tons more. So obviously you want to get your lower stats out of the way, get farming, and then you want to get your higher stats as you get more gear. I mean, later on pieces start to cost about 6 million for one piece. So I mean, you can buy a whole set of this gear for almost 6 million. My set's only worth about 8 right now, so yeah, that's a difference. So yeah. Alright, we're going to cover which follower you want to use next. Obviously you have your 3 choices, Templar, Enchantress, and then Scoundrel. The one I'm using right now is a Scoundrel. I'll go over the other 2 first, because the Scoundrel, I'll go into a lot more detail why I use him. Enchantress is obviously good. She can do, if you stack her with damage, just decent bit of extra damage. She charms enemies, she gives you a bit of armor so you can take an extra hit or so. She disorients enemies, and she also gives you 3% attack speed, so a nice little DPS increase. She's okay. I mean, lots of people use her. 3% increased attack speed's nice, just for kiting and stutter stepping and things. Templar, I'd never use a Templar on my wizard. Just, it's not, I don't know. I don't really need the heals or anything he really has, so I wouldn't recommend using him. Now, the Scoundrel, he is really good, and I'll tell you why. Crippling Shot slows enemies for 60% slows enemies by 60% for 3 seconds, combined with multi-shot, so hits 3 enemies at a time. So 3 enemies at a time are slowed by 60% for 3 seconds, and then he also gets the blind, and he gets 3% crit, which is currently the highest DPS value, so it's better in attack speed. Now, with the Scoundrel, he also gets bonuses off the weapon. So I put cold damage, it does slow, so always get cold damage, and then if you get any kind of chance to do something, so 3.6 chance to immobilize, you can get freeze, slow, stun, anything like that. That does work with the Scoundrel. So he shoots 3 arrows that can stun, immobilize, or slow, or whatever the 3% chancing is. So what I'd recommend on a weapon is getting, DPS does not matter, I'd recommend getting life on hit, because he gets a lot of life when he hits 3 mobs, and then at least get 3.5 or 3% chance plus to immobilize or slow or anything like that. Everything else, just go for a bit of life on hit and then pure vitality. So 300 life on hit, almost 187 vitality, attack speed, vitality. So he's at almost 60k health. He doesn't die often, and he slows the crap out of stuff. If you don't have Blizzard in your build, he is really good for slowing. So yeah, I definitely recommend just straight up going for him and doing the stats on the weapon that I said. Alright, we're going to go over some actual playstyles now. We're going to cover kiting, different kiting techniques, and we're going to cover a few of the affixes, not too many, because not many of them are difficult, and most of them are kind of covered while kiting as well. So let's get started with kiting. Okay, we're going to start with the most important part of kiting, which is called the stutter step. Well, most people call it the stutter step. This is just kind of a basic movement where you click your character to move and then click and hold shift and click back towards the way you're shooting over and over and over. So you move, shoot, move, shoot, move, shoot, and move, cast different spells, etc. This is really, really good, especially if you have energy on critical hit. So like every time you're turning around and shooting, you're getting crits and gaining more energy and kiting more. So move, shoot, move, shoot. I mean, we're probably doing this anyways. Like I said, it's really basic, but as you can see, it's really effective. Like really, really effective. With a bit of practice, you can get pretty good at it, and you get pretty quick, and you just notice yourself generally kiting a lot better. So just practice that one. That's probably the most important part, like I said, about kiting. Okay, so once you've got the stutter step down, I'd say you're ready to kite, really. I mean, the main thing you can do on a wizard to stay alive is using your surroundings as an advantage against some monsters. Some of the harder ones who move quick don't handle corners well at all. If they hit a corner, they walk around it really slowly. They follow the edge really closely, so it takes them longer to walk around the edge than it does for you. So you want to find areas with a circular kind of area. This is a prime example. It's a cave in the Fields of Slaughter in Act 3. It's literally a perfect circle. So the idea is you get them around the circle and you just keep kiting. You just keep putting blizzards and shooting behind you. There's loads of areas in the game you can do this. So, I mean, whenever I'm running through, I'm constantly, when I'm clearing, I'm always looking at the areas I'm in, just kind of taking notes. Like, oh, will I be able to use this area to fight if I get an extra health reflect mob later or something. So you kind of have to pay attention to your surroundings. Like this one's a good example as well. There's doorways in lots of areas which kind of lead to each other. They lead into a circle, so you can just kite indefinitely. Like this is a jailer mob, so if I get too close to him, he'll jail me and then one-shot me. So I'm keeping him off screen and I'm kiting him in a circle just for a while. This guy takes a while. So all I can really recommend for kind of, I like to call it circle kiting, is pay attention to your surroundings as you're clearing trash. Sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes you don't get an area big enough to actually kite the mob, so you kind of need to drag the enemy away, die, try to get past them without them aggroing, and then clear ahead and clear room for you to actually kite. Especially when you're obviously low geared, you rely on kiting like this. When you're high geared, you can stand there and arch on form and tank it, but I mean, most of you watching this probably don't have the greatest gear, like my wizard, so you want to learn how to use your surroundings. I'll stop jabbering on now, though, and we'll go on to the next point. Alright, so you don't always have the luxury of indefinite kiting. It just doesn't happen. Sometimes you get stuck in a corner, nowhere to go, and you're either screwed or you can work your way out. This is how I do it. I normally pool my arcane energy. I try to hit around 80, around my cap. Drag the enemies to the corner of the room, if possible, or the corner of where you're going. Put blizzards in between you and them towards the center of the room, and then you can kite them in a circle nice and neatly. It doesn't always work out. Mobs have different run speeds, different melee ranges, etc. But it's all about learning the mobs anyways and what they can do. So there, I just showed you can just easily just loop some slower moving mobs around in a small room and then give yourself a bit more room to kite. Like in this clip here, this is just once I killed the rest, just for an example. You can just kite this guy forever in a almost non-existent circle by just keeping your blizzards in the middle of the room and you staying on the outside edges. So it takes a bit of practice, but when you get it, you don't get hit and you stay alive really easily. And it's good because when you run in a room to kite, in the actual hallways or wherever you are, then you can loop them around and use the rest of the room you were using to kite some more. Okay, so the next technique I want to go over is something I call off-screening. This is a technique that safeguards you against teleporting mobs and jailers. Here I'm fighting some phase beasts, which are probably the worst mobs for you to fight as an undergeared wizard. Literally the worst mobs. So you want to keep them completely off your screen as much as possible. So to do this, you stutter step less, you do longer stutter steps and more blizzards, and this will kind of protect you. Right now I'm going to show you another technique as well, which is called waiting near a doorway and a waypoint, which you can do in lots of areas. And then going through and town portaling, and then going through the waypoint before the mobs heal. So it's completely different technique, but it's like you'll see here. It's really really good. And then the mobs aren't healed, and you just continue on your way. So you want to keep these kind of mobs off screen as far as possible, because they screw you if they get on your screen pretty much. So longer stutter steps, lots of blizzards, more kiting time. You need a lot of kiting space for these, but mobs who you're off screening are generally going to be hard anyways. So you need to set the fight up a little bit. Alright, so let's get started on some mob affixes now that you kind of know how to kite a bit better. The main one I want to go over is damage reflecting, as that's by far the most annoying. Okay, so in an ideal situation against reflect damage mobs, you have A, a lot of room to kite, and B, you have lots of health potions. They do take a while to kill with this build, and they're probably the most frustrating just overall, completely. So what I'd recommend while learning how to actually fight reflect damage mobs, if they're giving you a hard time, is instead of using energy armor with pinpoint barrier, use diamond skin with crystal shell. You lose DPS, but I mean, you get 21k damage absorb on a 15-second cooldown, so that's almost 2 health potions every 15 seconds. Once you learn how to obviously play against them, they become a lot easier. So you need lots of room to kite them, first of all. As you can see here, I'm relying on my perfect circle in the outside area, and I'm just kiting indefinitely. You don't want to put hydras down that often, because the hydras will leave a poison cloud behind, which does a lot of damage. So don't hydra unless you're full health and you know you can take it, and just kite in circles. Most elite mobs will drop health globes every 50%, I think, so pay attention to their health. Here I'll probably run into a few. So wait till they drop the health globes, keep your Frost Novas down, pick up the health globes as you go in a circle, and then just continue until they're dead. It does take a while, and it's not fun, but it's part of the game, which kind of sucks. So it's just something to deal with. Like, as you see here, my health's going a bit low, grab the health globe, keep going, potions on cooldown soon. So once you learn kind of the boundaries of your hit points and resistance, you know when to nuke and you know when to kill them. So, and you know when to push them past 50%. Like if I was coming on to 25% health and one was at 60% health, I'd probably push him to 50%, get the health globe, pick it up, and then continue nuking. So it's a bit of practice, but practice makes perfect again. And just stay at it. Diamond skin helps a lot, but I don't like the DPS loss. Diamond skin literally makes it twice as easy, so it could be something to look into for you. The other thing you want to do, if you have room to kite and things like that, is while you're clearing mobs, never pick up health globes. Leave them, because you never know when you're going to fight a reflect damage mob. So what I always do, you saw earlier, I left about 4 or 5 health globes around the area, kind of take a mental note where they are, and then find them later on and pick them up while you're fighting the reflect damage mob. It sounds crazy, like, oh, I'm going to leave health globes everywhere to fight mobs, but you'd be surprised. Try it, and those health globes will save your life and help you kill those mobs in half the time. So give it a shot. Alright, I'm going to recycle a clip here, just for the sake of actually it being a perfect example. These mobs are phase beasts, they teleport, and they have jailer. Both really, really annoying things on an actual wizard. So what you want to do is you want to keep these mobs off screen as much as possible. It doesn't always work out. Some mobs will give you a hard time, but if you have enough room to kite, you can keep them off screen. Circle kiting, as I showed you earlier, is a prime example of actually how to survive against these mobs as well. Sometimes mobs will teleport to you or grip you in, but since their melee attack is obviously a lot slower than other mobs' melee attacks, they might not actually melee you before you get a chance to run out. So if they do teleport to you or grip you in, you can actually keep moving and get away, like I did before a town portal. So I'd say with jailers and teleporters, just fight completely off screen if you have the luxury. If not, try to find an area to circle kite them around. If not, then hopefully you might have a bit of resistance to take a hit. I don't. My wizard can't take a hit. As you'll see here, I let them get on screen in a sec, and things immediately get out of hand. Because I get a bit greedy with damage. So you just got to keep off screening, really, is what it is. See, like here, I get greedy with damage, go for a kill, and you die. So you can't really... You got to pay attention with it, I guess. But yeah, so jailer and teleporters, and vortex even, off screen is the way to go. The other way to handle vortex is they don't handle corners easily, so if their vortex timer's coming up, try to stand near a corner and the corner will actually clip you, and it won't pull you in towards them. I didn't do it there, no, but you can. So just try to find a corner or an edge and stand behind it, and they'll grip you in, and they'll pull you into the edge, and then you won't actually have pulled into them. Alright, so that about wraps it up for kiting techniques and different mob FXs. The main thing on a wizard you want to do overall is stay alive, and to stay alive, I'd say you need to learn exactly what the mobs can do, and when they're going to do it, their attack speeds, everything like that. If you come up against tons of mobs which you don't know what they can do, you're going to die probably, so it's going to be frustrating. But if you go up against them, 10 times or so, you're going to know their behaviors, know how they're going to move around, etc. So it's all about learning the mob types. I probably should have told you this to begin with, really, but yeah, I'm telling you now. Yeah, it's just about learning different mob types and what's going on, really. So it's just a bit of research, I suppose, and being repetitive in what you do. So that about wraps it up for the wizard guide today, guys. Hopefully it gave you some information that you can use and actually improve your gameplay. I'm always open for questions. My inbox on my YouTube is probably the best way to get hold of me. I do try to answer it as much as possible, although it can be a bit overwhelming because I get 40 messages a day sometimes. So yeah, try to do that. Things to look out for in the future with wizards is I'm going to be doing up-to-date guides on every patch that changes wizards. So if they change a few spells, I'm going to go over a little update of my opinions, my thoughts, and what I generally think about that and how it affects gameplay. And need be it, I will make another guide based on the changes. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe if it was helpful. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. It might not be for everybody, especially with my style of rambling, etc. Alright, that completely wraps it up for the wizard guide. Thanks for watching, guys. Next guide to come is my monk 1.0.3 guide. Sorry about the delay. I know 1.0.3 has been out for a week or so. But I've been leveling all my characters to do future guides, so I've delayed that one a bit. It's coming out very early next week, beginning of July. So stay tuned for that. Sorry to all the monks again. But yeah, this guide's coming out. It'll be juicy. It'll tell you how to gear now and how to spec, etc. After that, I'm going to be doing a barbarian, demon hunter, or witch doctor guide. I haven't decided of a 3 yet. If you guys could leave in the comment section below which one you want me to do next, I'll tally them up and do the one you guys suggest me to do next. So that's about it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. I'll see you later.